Those are the most confusing fingers, like 1, 2, I've ever seen in my life. We are here, we are live in the tavern. We have the nutmeg, we have the yummy warm drink. Because I need a warm drink, I don't know, maybe it's cold in here. You know, sometimes before the doors open on the tavern, it's kind of clammy and cold in here. We get the fire going and finally it's warm. Welcome into the tavern. We are live and I'm your host, John Townsend, and we're going to be talking about fun 18th century, specifically tavern-oriented stuff today because we are in the tavern, right? I am joined behind the scenes on the other side of the time vortex and far, far away, but very close to me now. Lauren is in the chat.
Hello.
And normally we would have Ivy in the console, on the console, whatever that is. But today we have Will.
Hello.
There he is. He didn't even turn on his mic for that. So
I don't like to be heard.
he doesn't like to be heard. Hello, everyone. And I see you there coming from all over the place. People from England coming into the tavern. People from Ohio, from Alabama, from where else? Milwaukee, of all places. Yes, Milwaukee. Anyway, lots of folks. I didn't do that. Lots of folks in the tavern today. I will show you this while it's falling down. And this came in. Someone sent us the one over here of me and this one. These are acrylic paintings done off of the images that we use for catalog covers. And I want to thank you very much, Melinda, for sending those into us. The work is incredible, especially for someone who hasn't done this particular media and done portraits in any great quantity. So incredible. So thank you so much for that. Well, I'll just leave that one over there. I look like I'm looking at myself through time or something. I look a little, I said, that makes me look old. And Lauren said, you are that old, Dad.
I laughed and laughed.
She laughed and laughed. Why am I so old? Anyway, thank you so much for those gifted images. There's Arizona. And, you know, today I thought sometimes kind of, you know, look around for a topic. I don't know why I just ran onto this topic. Sometimes I see an image or I think of a particular thing and it's like, that's what we're going to talk about in the tavern today. I know we have talked about taverns in the past and sometimes things that go on in taverns, but I thought we would just kind of open it right up. We would be very meta as folks. There's Portugal, there's Ohio. Thought we would be very meta and talk about tavern life and what you would find in the tavern of the 18th century. Talking about the topic earlier with Lauren in my office, because occasionally we do talk about what we're going to talk about. So it happens. And I was kind of filling out the concept. And it came to me that it's like taverns in the 18th century were the internet of the 18th century. It's where you're going to find all the wackiness, all the craziness, all the conversation happening, all the gossip, all the news of an 18th century town, small town, large town, whatever. You're going to find that's the hub of information transfer. So much that you might pick up your mail at the tavern. You might go to church at the tavern. You might go to court at the tavern. You certainly could eat there or drink there or do any number, go see a show at the tavern, right? So all these things are happening in the tavern. It is a very, very central community hub and business transactions. You know, everything is happening in the tavern. And there are just totally different kinds of taverns, right? So there are, say like in London, the tavern is going to might look like a huge high ceilinged windowed like hall, like a giant restaurant. Or it might be the grimiest, grungiest, single room, stinky, you can imagine eating anything from their room someplace. So whether you're, that you might find in any place, right? So down by the docks, on the frontier, in a regular big city or not. So you're going to find taverns of every shape and size, and lots of things are going on in them. They might be of ill repute. Bad things might be happening there. You might get killed in the tavern, or you might see your doctor in the tavern. So it is a very, very interesting place. And it's, there are different situations where children might be in the tavern. There are times when you certainly would have travelers coming through taverns, and you might have women showing up there. It just really, really depends on the time and the place. So a tavern's going to be really fun. Let's look at some images of taverns, unless Laura needs to chime in with anything.
There's a couple questions. So somebody was wondering the difference between a tavern and an inn. Whether you had a personal feeling about the difference, or whether there was kind of a technical one in different areas.
Undoubtedly, there are lots of different names for, not undoubtedly, there just are lots of different names for taverns. And sometimes the names are specifically regional, and sometimes the different names do really kind of mean that it's a slightly different kind of establishment. Let me see if I had a particular document that might help us just a tiny bit. Just a tiny bit. And this is the laws regarding ordinaries and tippling houses in Virginia in 1793. And this is how this statute begins. Every person intending to set up or keep an ordinary or house of public entertainment. And then, of course, he also calls them a tippling house. So there are, like in this particular case, they've got a couple different names for it, lodgings. But in Virginia, an ordinary was one of the names that you would find. If you go, say, into Massachusetts, you're not going to find that name. And in England, it's certainly not called an ordinary. It might be called an ale house. It might be called, there's so many other different names. Some of them are a little bit more specific. This is where you go to drink. Or this is more like an inn where, yes, there's a room where you could get drinks and you might get food, and then you could also get lodging. A lot of that is happening in all the different places. Some of them, maybe they're just an ale house. They're just a place to get drinks. They don't have rooms necessarily. So there are, multiple names for it.
Somebody was wondering about games that might have been played in the inn, darts, billiards. When we were doing the one for the bowling, that they seem to play a lot at inns.
Yes, you're right. Inns and taverns, we're going to see a lot of different kinds of entertainment, and games are one of those entertainments. So let me see. While I'm here in this particular law thing, blah blah blah. I forgot to highlight the particular instances, but there's a specific set of rules about games and gaming inside of that. And they were very concerned about different sorts of games that were being played or shouldn't be played, depending on the moral compass of the community around it. Sometimes, gambling is no problem. It's going to happen. In other places, they're trying to suppress that. It's going to happen anyway, but they're trying to suppress it. So card games and different kinds of games of chance are going on. We're going to have, obviously, things like darts. I think bowling is going to be even more popular. Skittles is happening. It's a smaller game. Not like you would need a giant bowling alley necessarily, but they have smaller versions of that in games. They also have different kinds of shuffleboardy kind of things that they might play. But I think you're going to find card games and dice games being the most popular of the gaming things going on.
So this is a member chat from Lopo. Did you come across any bizarre tavern names when you were?
Not necessarily. There are a lot of simple ones, like the Gray Horse or the Swan or whatever. We'll see some pictures of the outsides of taverns and some of the signs. Some of the signs are specific to the name, and there are some things that seem like they make a sign that says tavern. Not the word, but a sign that has like drinks or a glass and something like that. You might see the Gray Horse on the sign, and then there'll be another little sign, and you'll be able to identify it. It's like, oh, this is a tavern, because the Gray Horse might be something else too, right?
There are more questions, but why don't we drop into the pictures and
maybe this will help us get some ideas here. So, my button isn't working. Can you bring up a slideshow for me? Is it being recalcitrant?
Being a little bit annoying.
Is it stuck?
It looks like when we got rid of the pictures in slideshow 2, it did it for slideshow 1.
Ooh.
So I will fix that. You go back to you and keep talking.
Okay.
I
will go back to the
those are all in a
questions.
folder there on the desktop called Tavern, whatever. I did something and I broke something.
So
yeah.
did the taverns make their own beer? Did you run across that happening?
I think that there are a lot of cases where they're going to be making some of their own beer. Again, I should have highlighted some things in this particular document. Many times, of course, they're going to be purchasing things. So wines are typically imported, brandies are imported, but beer is one of the things that they could make on premises, and probably did in a lot of different circumstances because they're using so much of it that it's really a chance for the tavern keeper to cut out the middleman, so that they would. Do you need some help?
I got it. Don't you worry about it.
Anyway, so a chance for him to cut out the middleman, make his own beer, and make twice the money, basically.
There was a bit of a discussion in the comment section about the age limit for alcohol.
Hold on one second. You'll find them on that. They're on a stick that's plugged in. If I didn't put them on the desktop, I'm sorry.
Tavern Wise Treatment.
You found it.
That was the one. Somebody was wondering about whether there was an age limit, and somebody else was thinking that there probably was not in this time period. Possibly because the alcohol, a lot of it was not very strong.
Yeah. I mean, but all kinds of things are getting drank in the tavern. So it's just that they don't really have the same. Number one, they don't think of kids and their ages quite the same way. The community looks on that differently. So there isn't the same sort of global, I'll say more like, large regional rules that we have. So they might have states like, rules for a state, but generally those kinds of rules, like this is appropriate in the taverns and this isn't, generally is a little bit more of a community thing. And since so many things are going on in the tavern, and not just drinking, that a lot of other community members are coming into the tavern for different purposes. So, maybe a child is serving you, which we wouldn't allow today. That's going to happen a lot. We might even see some pictures of that. So let's go ahead and jump into that.
Okay.
Now let's see. Okay, it's still not working here, so go ahead and bring it up.
Okay, so you just want it
Technical difficulties.
out. Is it not showing it?
I don't see it.
Shows it on mine.
Is it, and you transitioned into it?
Yeah. It shows it on my end too.
Oh.
And it's not showing on your end.
Well, then maybe I'm just seeing the wrong thing.
Oh, they see it. Okay,
Hey.
chat sees it. We're good.
Well, the problem is I can't see it.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. You look at that picture for a second, people, and I will jump away. Can you mute me for a second? Okay, we're going to go through these in the wrong order because of things. So let's see. This is a Hogarth image, and even though it's out of order, what I wanted to kind of bring up here is the fact that a lot of the tavern things are happening outside of the tavern. So if the weather's good, people are spilling out into the outdoors, and this is outside of a tavern. And you can see the person who's up high and painting the sign. I think if we look really closely, it's something about the barley the barley mound, basically. It's the name of that particular tavern. And then see the sign underneath the one right close to his palate. There's a glass, there's a wine bottle, and then like the wine is shooting out of the glass and going into the bottle, whatever. You'll see that kind of a sign happening multiple times. And also the bottle is hanging from the sign, again, saying, hey, this is an establishment here for, drinking, etc. And, we can see the city around it. This is part of the gin lane and beer alley, basically saying drinking beer is good, drinking gin is bad. For that time, right there in the 1720s, 30s, 40s, when there was this big push. Gin came in and it was cheap and it was wrecking English society at the time period. I don't think it was really so bad in North America. You really don't see that too much, but in Great Britain at the time, gin was just wrecking society. Again, this is outside, not in the big city, but outside in the country. This is people going hunting, and they stop by the village tavern, basically. There's a signpost out there, and then people sitting outside, and the innkeeper or the tavern keeper has come out, and he's serving a drink to the people. They're still on horseback. It's sort of like a drive-through, except it's a horse through, I don't know, something like that. Anyway, they're driving through the horses and getting a drink. And they're not getting a beer like the person sitting on the bench. Oh no. This is part of the Dancing Hob series from the early 18th century. And we have Hob who's serving drinks to people on the outside. And his father, innkeeper, whoever there beside him, talking to him, pointing, whatever. And then the tavern or inn there on the right-hand side. And notice the sign that's sort of hanging out from the wall. It's just like a plate. It's saying we serve food, right? But Hob is serving drinks outdoors. Let's see if I can find the right spot here. This is a later, like early 19th century, and probably France? Not sure where this one is. My guess is French. Could be Italian or something like that, but likely Frenchish from that time period. And again, we have tables outside, lots of tables outside, lots of stuff going on outside. It probably was much less stuffy and more room, especially if you had a lot of people. You just let that whole outdoor thing happen and serve drinks outdoors. And probably, if you got a bunch of rowdy soldiers, You're not wanting them to bust up the inside.
Maybe outside's a
Yeah,
great
you
spot
know,
for
yeah,
'em.
yeah, I'll serve you guys outside. I'll be out there in just a minute. The outside of, this one I think was called, I know you'll find this strange, this one's like called the White Eagle or something. And that does not look like an eagle. But it is supposed to be an eagle that's up there.
He doesn't look that much like
it's
an eagle.
Sure, yeah, goose, I don't know. I mean, he's got a,
Dove? A really
Certainly,
big dove.
yeah, well, he's got a raptor kind of like beak,
Well,
but
that's
the rest of them does not look
Yeah.
eagly. We can see that it, of course, does serve probably drinks and food, and these people look to be coming in for a room. So definitely one of those establishments that's doing multiple different kinds of things. Again, like we saw in one of the other images, it's also, the tavern is a common spot to disembark and embark with carriages and with stagecoaches, and many times they'll have connected to them places to keep your horses. So like a garage for horses,
Yeah.
right? It's like, well, where am I going to store my horse? Well, we that's part of the
Like if you go somewhere and you have your car with you, you're like, well,
Exactly.
where am I going to put it while I'm in town?
and so much more so with a
Yes,
horse. Where's
so
it going to
much
get
more.
fed? Where's it going to get water? Where's the stall for it? Not so easy. Here's one of these wonderful kind of outdoor. I love the way they put the sign and the post, and like you have to drive through the little gate thing, I don't know if it's, what the kind of whole purpose is of that, but there are benches outside. It really has it's more than just stick a post out of the wall and have a tavern. So it's one of those community gathering places. Again, this one's called the Woolpack Inn. This is a Rowlandson image from the late 18th century, and this one, or early 19th century. It's a thatched, so we might even see that in North America, but someplace in Great Britain, thatched roof, large window. You can even see that little staircasey thing, probably to help people get up into coaches, right? So, and people on horses, people with, got served on their horse, pigs in the street. It's a great place. And I think the sign over the door says Stingo, like it's a type of drink.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now, these are the interiors, and there are a lot of different kinds of interiors. Some of these are old and new. This one's a later one, probably early 19th century, a little impressionist. So, you gotta kind of, squint with your eyes a little bit to get the idea here. But we see couples, we see, open hearth, we see lots of different people, young and old, in a tavern of this type. And it is very homey. A lot of them are just plain the main room of the home, right? So real common kind of situation. We got babies in this tavern. We got, whatever. Travelers, soldiers, we're gonna find all kinds of things. This is the image that I used for the thumbnail, and yes, Rowlandson, you can always tell because everybody's kind of roly-poly in the Rowlandson image. Even the dogs kind of have their own curves to them. And here are folks that are getting served, multiple people that are getting served here at different tables. Probably you can guess that in a lot of these tavern settings, there's one thing that's being served that day. Right? Well, today we have chicken pie. If you don't want chicken pie, there's the door. Right? But it depends on the setting, and because sometimes there's just one fireplace that they're cooking in, so it's not a lot of choices. Right? There's not a lot of places to cook necessarily.
The horse died last week, so that's what you're eating.
Yeah, that's what we're eating. The inside of a tavern, we got a younger person serving here. We have sort of it looks like this is either some kind of almost a court thing going on here or a business transaction. Definitely something, going on with an image like this. So again, the tavern in this case is being used for a different sort of purpose. It isn't just hey, we're going to go in there to get a drink, but business is going on there, and not just two guys talking about business, but
like we'll meet at the tavern and then that's where we'll make this transaction. Yeah.
Right. Okay. This is by the same artist. In fact, if you look at the ceiling, it's got the same hook and loop. This is exactly the same sort of inside. And he says, right there, I went ahead and put the title of it, The Inside of a Country Alehouse. And we have something similar going on. Somebody's bringing in a piece of game, maybe to the keeper of the alehouse. Maybe you want to have cook rabbit later on today. The classic mug that she is holding for the ale, which is the white stoneware with a brown slip coating on the top. You get this two-tone mug. You see those so often in our time period. Again, children, regular, workers here. We got dogs inside the tavern. Notice the mugs hanging up. Again, more of those two-tone mugs hanging up on the mantelpiece. And it's not a big room. This is kind of a small spot. This is Hogarth, the modern midnight conversation, or midnight modern conversation. Can't remember how it goes like that. There's multiple versions of this image. This is the Mezzotints version of it, and it's kind of more close up and more detailed. This is people drinking punch. So they've got that big bowl of punch, a classic. So even in our regulations here in Virginia, it talked about, if you're going to be serving beer, wine, spirituous liquors, or mixed drinks, like of course here the classic mixed drink of the time period, which is something like brandy and lemon juice and sugar and water in a big giant punch bowl. But if we looked at other versions of this image, we do see like piles of bottles in the corner. We have, all sorts of craziness going on, and conversation and hectoring and all fun things of our time period. A Rowlandson of the time period, and a tavern, and we've got benches and seats, people talking. Things. We don't have any food cooking on this fireplace. It's just a warming fireplace. But if you look on that mantelpiece, beside the lantern, well, that's a little cooking implement, like a tiny baking oven that you would get up close to the fire to bake little biscuits in or something like that. We've got our ubiquitous dogs and cats running around on the inside. People being served food and being served drinks. Another Rowlandson, and a much larger establishment. And we see, even again like the image before it, signposts on the wall. So it's got a big clock on the wall. Nobody needs a clock that big unless we're in a public spot. That wouldn't be inside a living room. That'd look crazy in a living room. But we have the lottery begins drawing on the public notice there. And it might be the spot where you'll find all sorts of public notices. People might put up for sale signs for things they're trying to sell. You might have to put up public notices if some law thing is going on. So, some estate is being done, and if there are any duty or any things that need to be paid creditors or debtors that need to talk to those people. You might put up a notice on the door of the place, and we can see the bar there and people serving drinks, and looks rowdy in that tavern today. This is a bit more of it looks like a restaurant, but it might be called a tavern in the time period too. I don't know what those dogs are doing. They're like the happiest dogs ever.
They're having a great time. Look, someone's going to drop something. They're having the time of their life.
Right. Woo!
The odds are.
Right?
Yeah, right. So this one has booths, and it's a lot more of a restaurant-like setting than we might expect a typical tavern. But this would be called a tavern in the time period. And if we look at say the Universal Cook here by John Townsend, it says that he is the late master of the Greyhound Tavern. So somebody like this is here he was running a tavern. Obviously, the kind of tavern that needs a lot of cooking being done. It's probably one that was just like that tavern with a lot more of a eating establishment.
Would this kind of tavern been closer to what we consider a modern bar to be, in the sense of it's a lot larger of a space for a lot more people?
Yeah, right. A bit more like what we might classically call a tavern. Right?
Yeah, this one I had assumed was in maybe London.
Oh, yes.
Because it is so
Likely.
much more bustling.
Yes, right, definitely. And I didn't want to show that picture. So there we go.
Ivy gave the thumbs up.
Oh, Ivy gave it a thumbs up. Okay, I'll just go back. No, I won't. We'll look at that later. Let me zip through this. There's a couple at the very end that I didn't get. Let's see. We're going. We're outside. Yes. Yeah, here we go. This is a tavern, and it's being used as a recruiting center.
Oh, how fun.
But notice the sign on the wall. It's called the Duke of Cumberland, and then, that's the signpost is sticking out from the wall. And then right beside the door, we have the bottle and the glass with the little shooting thing. Again, it's saying this. We serve drinks here, and here is an early, like 17th century Dutch. This one's called A Dance at the Tavern. And we've got somebody playing music, somebody dancing, they're drinking, they're having...
Gallivanting.
Yeah, gallivanting is the word that... Thank you, Will, I needed that. Let me, before we get to questions and more readings, let me get to the all-important super thank yous too. The new and renewing YouTube members, Kimberly Cook, Laurel Tucker, Carrie Riley, Chad Parkhouse, Bobby, Badnuriak Dan, Soul Knife 20, Alex TT, Mossy Rock 6, Tico Lopez, Spencer's Adventures, and Chickston. And then we got some new Patreon folks. Zach Beef 79, Elise Wittenberg, Amy Candler, and Bobby M. And special thank you to the Patreon folks who came into the special Patreon live stream that we had earlier this week. And that was a fun time, special Patreon live stream. Thank you for supporting us, you folks that are members and Patreon people and Townsend's Plus people and merch people that want to go and find really cool mugs like this one that you can't get anymore because we sold them all.
Unbelievable.
But we have other mugs available on our website if you're interested in that sort of thing. Where was I at? Oh yeah. Got any questions for me?
Sure. You gonna make the announcement about the picture and
Yeah, later.
Okay, alrighty. Okay. Let me find my questions. Okay. Okay, this isn't a question. So, this is a super chat from Nature's Adornments. Would love to see a crow or raven design with a nutmeg in its beak or claw on a mug. It looks so good. Like, I do think that looked good. Maybe with one of his wings unfurled. Yeah, I like that idea. So, and then here's a super chat from Max Arkle. If your tavern wasn't in a port town, how hard was it to keep your tavern supplied with food and drink? How simple could tavern offerings be?
Well, they could be amazingly simple. And one of the more popular tavern foods, which I think, I've talked about here on the channel before, which is hard to imagine today. You went into a tavern and said, I would like some panada. And they brought out this big bowl of breadcrumbs soaked in milk and a little bit of sugar. There you go. And it's a big bowl and they give you a spoon. It's like, it can be as simple as that. And other times it's going to be, what we would expect. Here's a chunk of the roast beef, here's a chicken and here's some bacon or whatever. But sometimes it's just the simplest bare bones. It's like, well, we got some bread and cheese if, you want to eat that. I don't think it's going to be nearly as difficult as you might think to find food in those areas because, of course, if there are people, there's going to be food. And the entire community might serve that community, that tavern with some kind of food. Somebody just butchered a cow. They, of course, you can't necessarily get rid of the whole cow at once. That's one of the problems with butchering a cow. It's why you have to do it in the fall and you can't do it in the summer. So the tavern might get supplied by any number of the households around it because they have bounty of one particular thing and another. So the same way we saw in that one image where the hunter is coming in and with a hare. It looked like a hare. It was pretty big instead of a rabbit, but he's offering it more than likely to the tavern keeper for food for, he might cook it that night and serve it to his customers.
Okay, so here's a super chat from Mikey Mike. Can you talk about the tavern's role in the revolution a bit?
Yeah, so the taverns are a classic spot for politics and conversation. And so a lot of political things are going on, not only conversation, but pushes for particular things. So somebody might get up and do a speech, or somebody might be moving from tavern to tavern, encouraging a particular kind of political activism. That's happening in the 18th century. It's happening in the newspapers, and it's happening person to person in the taverns. That's the spot where it's going to happen. It's more likely there to happen there than just about any place else, except of course if you read in something like Nicholas Cresswell, he's talking about that happening in the churches too. So from the pulpit, there's a lot of political things going on in the 18th century. He was complaining about that, but the tavern is, as likely or more likely that's happening day to day, every day, right? So here we go. This goes right into this reading. This is Dr. Alexander Hamilton, not the one you're thinking of, but a different one earlier in the 1740s and 50s. And he is traveling up the East Coast for his health. He's a doctor, he's traveling for his health. He says, I dined at a tavern with very mixed company of different nations and religions. There were Scots and English, Dutch, Germans, and Irish. There were Roman Catholics, churchmen, Presbyterians, Quakers, New Light men, Methodists, Seventh-day men, Moravians, Anabaptists, and one Jew. The whole company consisted of 25 planted round an oblong table in a great hall well stoked with flies. The company divided into committees in conversation. The prevailing topic was politics and conjectures of a French war. Not of Quakers. There talked only about selling flour and the low price it bore. They touched a little upon religion, and the high words rose among the sectaries, but their blood was not hot enough to quarrel, or to speak in a canting phrase. Their zeal wanted fervency. A gentleman that sat next to me proposed a number of questions concerning Maryland, understanding that I came from thence, and in my replies I was reserved, pretending to know little of the matter, as being a person whose business did not lie in the way of history and politics. Of course, he was always commenting, always thinking about his how things happened in Maryland, and apparently, it didn't matter where you were from, as long as you weren't from there, people were looking down on you and wanted to know about where you came from and wanted to say, bad things about where you came from, just like today. Anyway, that is some of what's going on there. So you can see lots of religious things being talked about, lots of business things being talked about, and of course, politics, and even talking about a war with France. It was right before the French and Indian War, and so there's a lot of talk about that. So big, politics is what people are talking about.
Okay, so I've got a question. So I actually have a couple more super chats. Okay, so this one is from Edshot 500, and I transcribed it, so we'll see how. Okay, so how do you see 18th century recipes and cookbooks relating to different cultures and people immigrating in, and how long did it take for that influence to kind of work itself out into the cooking and the cookbooks?
Super interesting, good question. Not always easy to answer. We don't have a lot of examples, but the best example we have right off the top of my head, of course, is Amelia Simmons's first American cookbook, or her American Cookery Cookbook. And that is, now the influences of different cultures coming into North America. So we've got this, major, in the 13 colonies, major, all prevailing English, main culture. But even England in the, say, 18th century was being impressed upon by the cultures around it, and they were adapting different sorts of cultural dishes. So if you read in, say, Hannah Glass's cookbook, the classic English cookbook of the time period, she's got recipes that she says this is French, or this is English, or this is Spanish, or whatever. Not a lot, but some, and they are obvious, and she tries to make that sense true. The English cooking of the time period, especially the high-end cooking, was majorly influenced by French cookery of the time period. So all the expensive chefs in England were French chefs, or French cooks for large households. So the French cooking is always, kind of trying to invade the standard low-level, or let's say vulgar, by that common English cookery. And similar things are happening in North America. But the English culture that affected North America and the 13 colonies is English 17th century cookery. So the bulk of all these English people coming in, and the core culture is 17th century English, being specifically the cultures right around East Anglia, in the north part, and the Cavaliers, and right around, say, southern England for Virginia. And then we've got these different sorts of English culture. They're very different from each other, affecting the colonies. And then we have pressures and things that are affecting those, like Native American cookery, and French cookery, and Spanish cookery, and the enslaved African cookery. All those are affecting what's happening with specifically American cookery of the time period. But we don't have any American cookbooks until you get to published cookbooks, until you get to 1797 or 1796 with Amelia Simmons's American Cookery Cookbook. And in that cookbook, you can see those influences bubbling up. But remember, that is almost 200 years old. The American cooking is almost 200 years old at that point that the first cookbook is published. So we don't know how fast some of these things are really affecting cookery, how quickly they come in and start to change things. But we know that there's a bunch of German influence by some of the recipes that are in there, Native American influence because of the cooking with corn, and some other influences. So, until we have that first cookbook coming in, we don't know, exactly how that's affecting things as much. That was a long answer for a short question.
You're having fun with it. Okay, so here's a question, a super chat from Speed and Style Tony. In one of the pics, there was a circle behind a candle. Was that a reflector?
Yeah, they're like sconces and different things are, if you want to, then they do that a lot in the time period, trying to get as much out of candlelight as you can. So putting mirrors, putting reflectors behind that. Sometimes you'll even find that they will have glass orbs, sometimes filled with water probably, and it acts as a lens. So if you want to, concentrate light, you would put that in front of the candle, and then you could, you would take that light and focus it down.
Did you ever run across people talking about security for if things got out of hand? And a companion one, was drunkenness tolerated? How? And they brought up the fact that it's probably very different in different areas and different establishments.
Yeah, different laws about that. Let me see. I mean, we discussed that one little thing here. Let me see if I can find it. There was in the ordinaries and tippling house laws. There was a. They even talked to that. Here we go. If the keeper of an ordinary or a tavern shall in his house suffer any person to tipple or drink more than is necessary. More than is necessary on the Lord's Day or any other day set apart by public authority for religious worship, or shall harbor or entertain any seamen, contrary to law. It's like, you shouldn't let sailors in here. Such tavern keeper shall be deprived of his license in a similar manner. If any keeper of a tavern or ordinary shall sell drink to any sailor in actual pay on board any ship on credit, or shall so yeah, it was like no more than necessary. Now, obviously, that left the discretion all over the place. Can you imagine? It's like, I've decided that was more than necessary, so I am finding you. But how do you keep rules like that, right?
Well,
you stay friends with the people in charge.
That's right.
Well, and there's a reason you wouldn't say no more than this amount, because different people would be affected differently by different amounts. So, especially if they'd already been at the tavern across the way. Yeah,
so I mean, today we have ways of saying, blood alcohol level, and even that I'm sure is subjective. Let's see if we can test that. Well, one guy tests it one way and one guy tests it another way, right? But at least we have some kind of number. You can kind of cough out some kind of a number. They didn't have those kinds of options then. So, I mean, what kind of rules? If he couldn't stand up, then that was too much, or, whatever. Nah, I don't know.
Did you run across any security people specifically set aside? You're like, that's the guy who takes care of a problem if there is one.
We could probably look in the pictures. It's like, but more than likely, the tavern keeper himself was somebody who you didn't keep a tavern unless you could keep the order, if you know what I mean. Will wants to say something.
Plus, I'm sure if you're the tavern keeper, everybody knows you, and you don't mess with the tavern keeper. Everybody will probably mess with you if you mess with the guy who serves the drinks.
No one wants to make him upset. Yeah. That's true. So, on the subject of food, would any of them have like attached gardens? to just
More than
supplement.
likely. And there were rules here also. I mean, that kind of brings up the idea that they have to, in this particular circumstance. Okay, so the justices of every county court within this commonwealth shall, at their March court or any other court, set the rates and prices to be paid at all ordinaries within their respective counties for liquors, diet, lodging, provender, stableage, fodder, and pasturage, and may increase or lessen the rates as often as they shall see cause, but shall not fail to fix the rates at least twice a year under the penalty of $15 for every member of the court failing, and every ordinary keeper shall, within 1 month after the rates are set, or from time to time altered, set up a copy of the rates aforesaid affected by the clerk of the court, and he shall place the notice not more than 6 feet above the ground, and so long as it blah blah blah. So you have to have the cost of the items in your tavern, and it has to be on the wall where people can read it.
So where's my next, I'm sorry, I have a question here. There's a couple different people who are asking about, they were talking about how a lot of times you're seeing men mostly in the pictures, although there are women. Did you run across any written descriptions of like whether there were rules or like, okay, in this tavern it's only men, and in this one women are allowed but only to serve? Did you run across any?
I have not seen those. Undoubtedly there's some of that. I think that's also sort of a community no-go kind of a thing, right? I believe if we look at the Madam Knight diaries, she talks about going into taverns, but then again, she was traveling alone on horseback. She was weird. So it could be that, I mean, there weren't rules. It's just, you just didn't do that thing, or it wasn't a big deal, right? It could be, it's like, you can go to the tavern, but not after 9. I wouldn't do that, that kind of a thing.
So this person was wondering about bakers, whether the taverns made their own bread or whether they worked with local bakers, or whether there was kind of a special, you're like, they have a deal with each other. The tavern gives them the beer and they give them the bread.
I don't have any specific about that, but I think you could probably find that to be a fairly true situation. So it really depends on the setting. If it's a small country, small country alehouse, they're probably going to do all that in-house. They don't need large quantities of bread. Whereas the London Tavern, that big restaurant-y one, they're not making their own bread. So it really depends on how big it is and where they're located as to whether that's an outside thing or an inside thing.
So this person was asking about bookkeeping and how, I mean, it'd be a problem for pretty much anybody, but specifically for the taverns, how they handled all the different currencies. And I'm sure, lines of credit, barter.
It's massive. That's a massive issue in the time period, especially in the colonies where there isn't a lot of ready money. And so there is a lot of bookkeeping going on. And there are some of those that are available to us. Not a lot. I mean, you can imagine it was, one of those things where they would keep a waste book, a book that, there is a lot of different kinds of, the accounting of the time period is very, very interesting. And a complex set of interlocking books many times. And there would be just sort of the day book that has lots of just random information in it. And then that would get transferred into more particular books that dealt with particular accountings of an establishment. And so being able to keep the books and keep them all straight is an important part of any kind of business transaction. And so like even a small ship would have, a set of books. We think of a set of books and, we think, just one kind of a giant spreadsheety thing, but it's actually multiple interlocking books. And there are some of those things that we could find. There's at least one from the early 19th century that's easy to kind of extract, how when they're getting things, how big the lots are, how much they're paying for things. So I don't have a lot of that obviously at my fingertips, but if we wanted to do some deep down research, we could do some of that.
Here is a super chat from Jaji. Silly drunken sailors. So my favorite videos, no matter what the main topic is, are the ones with the B-roll of tavern scenes with voiceovers.
Yeah.
Makes any video more
always
fun.
Always fun.
Okay, I think I'm mostly caught up.
Okay. Let's touch on that picture real quick. This is one of the reasons why my life has been so crazy for the past 4 or 5 months. That is Ivy and I dancing at her wedding on Saturday. And that's why she's not here in the tavern today. So congratulations to Ivy and Val, newlyweds, and Ivy should be in next live stream, maybe.
Next Friday is Mrs. Sinoa.
Oh gosh,
I know.
It's always something.
I don't know if we're gonna do a live stream next Friday. If we, whatever the next live stream is, it should be. We're probably gonna do a wedding, right? We're gonna do a wedding.
Yeah, the next live stream will be on weddings, and
but I don't know what day that's gonna be.
But so again, super congratulations to Ivy and.
You can probably see the tall, dark, and handsome guy in the background.
Yeah, the black suited person standing in the background waiting for his dance again. But that was us prepping for that has been just like wow, pretty amazing. We were gone on vacation, we had to get back, and that happened at our house. So the whole wedding prep and a million lights and where we're going to have the ceremony and all these tables and tents, and it was just incredible. So everybody is still trying to catch their breath after that. But super thank you to everyone who helped with that.
Right. The reason why the picture looks so good is because Ryan was taking the pictures. So
yeah, Ryan took the pictures, so there you go.
Okay.
Have we done it? Mm-hmm. Okay. So, super thank you to everyone here in the tavern right now. I hope you've enjoyed this time talking about being in the tavern as we were here in the tavern. But this is as much like a tavern is truly as, you know, a 21st century, 18th century tavern can be. That is what we do. That's what the chat is all about. And, you know, I sit here and talk about that and show pictures, and we all have fun. And that's certainly what they're trying to do in the 18th century taverns. I don't know if they always achieved it. You know, maybe they were all drunken and hungover or got hit in the head, but they wanted to have fun. So thank you, Lauren, for helping in the chat. Thank you, Will, for battling the monsters that are in whatever that piece of equipment is. Super, again, to the people who support us directly, so Patreon, Downloads Plus, YouTube members, people that buy merch. If you can't do any of those things and you're here, I want to thank you for just being here and being part of this community, because everyone in the community is important to what it is. And you know, even if you just contribute by, you know, sharing our videos with other people or talking about it with people in real life instead of online, that's okay too. We have a lot of fun here talking about these topics, and they all kind of touch us in a different way, helping us understand what people were like back then, what we're missing today, or what we're not missing. And I think it's really helpful for us to connect to people that long ago, understand that they were just like us. They were, you know, they were trying to get through life just like we do. And we stand on their shoulders in one way, shape, or form. So thank you so much for your care of us. And I hope you have a tremendous weekend. Thanks for watching.